I want to read you a few passages from the Hu Qing, and all of this is about dissolving the mind. It is a matter of doing nothing. Simply avoid clinging to what you see and think. Now, this is one of the most important lines in the Hu Qing. Relinquish the idea that you are separate from the all-knowing mind of the universe. Relinquish the idea that you are separate from the all-knowing mind of the universe. This is what I discussed with the ego. You have to let go of that idea. The all-knowing mind of the universe, God, is not just something to which you are connected. It is something you carry within. That inner vision implies the notion that you could somehow be separate from God. This is a complete and total illusion. Then you can reclaim your original, pure vision and see through all illusions. Remember that clarity and enlightenment are within your own nature. They are reclaimed without moving an inch. This is truly powerful. I always come back to remind myself of this, because clarity and enlightenment are within your own nature. They are reclaimed without moving an inch. Now here comes the crucial teaching of the Hu Qing. If you correct your mind, the rest of your life will fall into place. That means all your addictions, all your excess weight, all your poisons, all your pain. If you correct your mind, everything else will fall into place. I attribute the 23 kilograms I lost in 29 days to not consuming sugar, and I wanted to talk about this when we spoke of returning to your original nature. I believe it is because I corrected my mind. If you correct your mind, that is when you know you have overcome an addiction. One of my favorite people, whom I have come to know, is Patty Davis, the daughter of President Reagan. You knew she was not like the others, right? Those who know her story understand that she was severely addicted to cocaine and wrote an essay in Newsweek about how she quit. She said she tried everything. She tried not to disappoint herself. She tried not to disappoint her father, who was the President of the United States. She tried not to disappoint her mother, but her mother, she said, was always disappointed in her. Then she said, I finally came to a point in my life, and that was the turning point. I sent this piece to my daughter, who had struggled with drugs, and she read it aloud to everyone in the unit where she was hospitalized at the time. Patty said, I finally decided I no longer wanted to disappoint God. Remember, I am not speaking of God in a religious context here, in the sense of a specific religion imposed on you. She might just as well have said, I no longer wanted to disappoint the highest place within me, my higher self. She did not want to remain misaligned, and by realigning with her divine nature and realizing that you can never be separate from God, from your source, from your divinity, and relinquishing that idea of separation, by doing so, you correct your mind. And when you correct your mind, just as when we spoke about sugar, if you correct your mind about it, it becomes truly easy. And when you do, it is as if the temptation disappears. You are no longer tempted because you are at home. You have returned home. You are in the place of well-being. Make me an instrument of your well-being if you wish to pray, from your well-being, from which I come. More important than that, if you correct your mind, the rest of your life will fall into place. This is true because the mind is the governing aspect of a human life. If the river flows clear and clean through the right channel, everything along its banks will be well. The integral way, the way of meaning. The integral way depends on decreasing, not on increasing. To correct your mind, trust non-doing. Stop thinking and clinging to complications. Keep your mind clear and whole. Remove mental confusion and darkness. Keep your mind crystal clear. Avoid daydreaming and allow your original, pure vision to arise. Calm your emotions and remain in serenity. The path to this place of inner peace, and consequently to experiencing greater awareness, is to switch off the inner frenzy. The Chinese sage Chen gave us the following wisdom. Stop talking, stop thinking, and there will be nothing you do not understand. Return to the root and you will find meaning. Look within, and in an instant you will conquer the apparent and the empty. He advises us simply to stop talking and thinking. This is the third key to the sense of peace that is part of the sacred way. I want to make it clear that peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is the experience of the presence of God. As you learn to quiet your inner dialogue and become more peaceful, you will begin to sense the presence of God in your life. That presence will be felt both in your body and in your inner world. Beliefs dissolve. Belief is replaced by knowing. At different times in my past, both alcohol and other substances were part of my own life path. Through meditation, I was able to leave alcohol behind, and I have never touched it again. But with other substances, I believed I could use them whenever I wished to get an energizing effect beyond anything I had experienced. I could use them, enjoy greater energy, and leave them aside for long periods. But there came a moment when I knew I was making unwise and unspiritual choices in seeking these insidious substances. My personal challenge was to rid myself of these insidious habits. I tried to read my way out of it, but I went back. I tried acupuncture, conversations with experts, and herbal cures, but I went back. I was determined that I would no longer play with any substance, but I went back. Then I had what I call a sacred instant, which for me was a divine experience. At 4:05 in the morning in a quiet meditation, the thought of never using a substance again became real. It was my first absolutely direct experience of God. My entire inner screen of awareness filled with a brilliant luminosity as I heard a voice say, "You have tried everything else. Why not try me?" Never in my life had I known such certainty that God was with me and around me. I felt overwhelmed by the presence of God, the bliss I experienced. I heard that voice. I felt the presence of God, and since then, I have not experienced the slightest desire to return to any substance. I debated with myself about including such a personal story in this recording. That was my ego self debating my higher self. But I knew my experience with chemicals involved helping others to look within themselves, rather than seeking outside themselves for both the emotion and the peace their higher self has in store for them. If by telling this story, one person who is experimenting with some substance and knows they are out of control decides to switch off the inner tumult and seek help from their loving presence, then it will have been worth it. You do not need to face the challenge of giving up drugs to find value in applying this third key to greater awareness. It works the same way for any experience you are ready to transcend. Attaining silence and then having God as your personally known presence requires a conscious effort on your part to go within. Use the metaphor of a stone dropping through the various levels of your mind. As the stone drops, be the witness. Observe with compassion all your chatter and thoughts as you descend into the unified field. When you notice your mind is crowded with thoughts, practice not focusing on anything, even if only for a few moments. Say to yourself, "My mind is full of the disturbance of chatter and thoughts. I will try to spend 5 minutes without being bombarded by thoughts." Dismiss each thought just for a few moments. Use your breath as a means to keep your mind from chattering incessantly. You can do this by focusing your compassionate witness on your breath. Inhale deeply, excluding any thought as you concentrate on the inhalation, then exhale slowly and completely with the same focus. When thoughts appear, as they will, understand that they are signaling you to return to mindful attention on your breathing in and out. Your heartbeat can also be used as a focal point for the witness. Return to the steady rhythm of your heartbeats when you notice thoughts interrupting you. When you find your thoughts just below the surface, at the level of analysis, think of a rose. By replacing analysis with the beauty of a rose, you might remember this verse by the poet Rabindranath Tagore. "Do not bring a rose to our beloved, because within it there is already embodied a message which, unlike our language of words, cannot be analyzed." That is, remember that the habit of analyzing, or breaking things down in a critical way, keeps you from knowing the truth at the center of your being. The rose does not need to be analyzed, as the poet reminds us. It simply is. The same is true for you. At the level of synthesis, when you feel the beauty and unity of life, you might find yourself entering thoughts of pleasure as you enjoy this spiritual space. Let those thoughts go as well. The ego loves to convince you that you are better than others because you are more spiritual or possess a deeper understanding. Nothing good comes from your awareness when thoughts like those arise. When they do, send them gently elsewhere for this time of meditation or prayer. Knowing that we have a higher self truly means detaching from many of the things we have come to believe we are. The beliefs we hold, with which we were raised, and which we have practiced in all our daily rituals. This is what I call tribal thinking. You see, we are all members of a tribe, and that tribe might be your immediate family, the ethnic group to which you belong. The people who share the same skin color as you, or perhaps those who hold the same philosophical, political, or religious views, or those related to you genetically in some way, cousins, aunts, uncles, and so forth. In any case, there is a tribe into which we are in some way born, so to speak. What I am talking about here, when you come to know your higher self and live in accordance with it, is leaving the tribe and leaving tribal consciousness to be an individual. When you go to the tribe and say, I have discovered something about manifestation, and I am really going to practice it, and I know I can do it. Jesus said we can do it. Sai Baba told us we can do it. Ramana told us we can do it. I am going to do it. What I am telling you is that if you are going to learn to manifest, and you are going to understand your higher self, you will somehow have to find a way to let go of the idea that the tribe will give you its approval, or that you will do it within the parameters the tribe has dictated. Because what you are doing when you learn to manifest, or when you learn anything outside the tribe's restricted parameters, is accelerating the evolution of your consciousness. You are saying, I am going to evolve at a faster rate. But if you go to the tribe and tell them that, they will immediately put you in your place. You see, the tribe's mantra is, what will they think of me? That is the tribe's mantra. What will they think of me? The moment you begin to play that game of, what will they think of me? You have stopped leaving the tribe and tribal consciousness. You have stopped being able to evolve at a faster rate. You do not go around telling everyone, I am speaking about this because I am trying to encourage you to do it. But when I decide I want to manifest something, when I place my attention on it, it is a very private matter between God and me. The reason you do not share it is that you take energy away from what you are doing and put it into the attention of the person you are trying to convince. The ego enters immediately, and the moment the ego enters, you switch off the energy, you change it. So leaving the tribe and tribal consciousness is truly what you are saying. If I am going to evolve at the speed at which the tribe evolves, I am saying I am going to evolve, but I will do so very, very slowly. And if you wish to manifest, if you truly want to become a manifester in your life, you do not have enough time in this lifetime. You would have to come back for 19 lifetimes, right? You do not have enough time for that, so it is almost like stepping out of that consciousness. When Dr. Maslow was asked this question, when I asked him this question personally, what does it mean to be self-actualized? He said there are 3 things you must know and understand. 1, you must learn to become independent of the good opinion of other people. That is the first on the list. You must become independent. The self-actualized are independent of the good opinion of others. Second, the self-actualized are people who are not attached to the outcome. They are detached from the fruits of their efforts. They know what their life is about, and they proceed with it without worrying about how it will turn out. They leave that in God's hands, holding only the certainty that all will be well, and that is enough. Third, they have no interest in exercising power over others. They have no interest in having power over people. They do not try to convince, subjugate, or dominate anyone with their abilities. These people who possess these divine capacities are generally very, very quiet about it, and they will receive disapproval and acknowledge it. And that is fine. They simply carry on. They do not allow that to be the focus of what they will do with their lives. I cannot tell you how many people, it is in the hundreds of thousands, have written to me over the last quarter century and told me about their difficulties, their struggles, and how, if they had learned one of these 3 lessons, or all 3, being independent of the good opinion of others, not being attached to the outcome, and dropping their investment in the need to have power over others, how much peace their lives would have. Treat yourself as if you already were. Treat yourself as if you already were what you would like to be, what you would like to become. Whatever you imagine for yourself, no matter how lofty or impossible it seems at this moment, I encourage you to begin acting as if what you would like to be were already your reality. This is a wonderful way to set in motion the forces that will collaborate with you to make your dreams come true. To activate the creative forces that are dormant in your life, you must go to the invisible world, the world beyond your form. There is where what does not yet exist for you in your world of form will be created. You might think of it this way. In form, you receive information. When you move into spirit, you receive inspiration. It is this world of inspiration that will guide you to access everything you would like to have in your life. What does it mean to become inspired? Some of the most important counsel I have ever read was written more than 2,000 years ago by an ancient teacher named Patanjali. He instructed his devotees to become inspired. You may recall that the word inspire comes from in spirit. Patanjali suggested that inspiration involves a mind that transcends all limitations, thoughts that break all their bonds, and a consciousness that expands in all directions. This is how you can become inspired. Place your thoughts on what you would like to become: an artist, a musician, a computer programmer, a dentist, whatever it may be. In your thoughts, begin to imagine yourself possessing the skills to do these things without doubts, only a knowing. Then begin to act as if these things were already your reality. As an artist, your vision leads you to draw, to visit art galleries, to speak with renowned artists, and to immerse yourself in the art world. In other words, you begin to act as an artist in every aspect of your life. In this way, you get ahead of yourself and take control of your own destiny while you cultivate inspiration. The more you see yourself as what you would like to be, the more inspired you feel. The dormant forces Patanjali described come to life, and you discover that you are a greater person than you ever dreamed. Imagine those dormant forces, once dead or non-existent, coming alive and collaborating with you as a result of becoming inspired and acting as if what you desire were already here. Having the courage to declare yourself already where you wish to be will almost force you to act in a new, exciting, spiritual way. You can also apply this principle to areas other than your chosen vocation. If you are living a life of scarcity and all the good things many people enjoy are not coming to you, perhaps it is time to change your way of thinking and act as if what you enjoy having were already here. Treat yourself as if you were a child of God. This does not imply deception, arrogance, or harming others. It is a silent agreement between you and God, in which you discreetly work in harmony with the forces of the universe so your dreams come true. This involves a knowing on your part that success and inner peace are your birthright, that you are a child of God and as such entitled to a life of joy, love, and happiness. In your relationships with your loved ones, co-workers, and family, act as if what you want to materialize in those relationships were already here. If you desire a sense of harmony in the workplace, maintain a clear vision and an expectation of that harmony. Then get ahead of your day by seeing 5 in the afternoon arrive peacefully for everyone when it is still 7:30 in the morning. Each time you have an encounter with someone, your 5 in the afternoon vision appears in your mind, and you act in a peaceful, harmonious way so as not to cancel what you know is coming. Furthermore, you act with everyone else as if they too already were all they are capable of becoming. This kind of expectation leads you to say, "I am sure you will have everything ready this afternoon," instead of, "You are always late with everything. I wish you would get your act together." When you treat others this way, they also fulfill the destiny you have reminded them they have. In your family, particularly with your children, it is important always to keep this little thought in mind. Catch them doing things right. Remind them often of their inherent brilliance, their capacity to be responsible, their innate talent, and their fantastic abilities. Treat them as if they already were responsible, brilliant, attractive, and honorable. "You are so amazing. I am sure you will feel great about your interview. You are so smart. I know you will study well and do well on that exam. You are always connected with God, and God does not get sick. You are going to feel much better tomorrow." In this moment, when you act toward your children, parents, siblings, and even more distant relatives as if the relationship were wonderful and would remain that way, and you point out their greatness rather than their mistakes, that greatness is what you will see. With your partner, whoever they may be, make sure to apply this principle as frequently as you can. If things are not going well, ask yourself, am I treating this relationship as it is or as I would like it to be? Then how would you like it to be? Peaceful, harmonious, mutually satisfying, respectful, loving, of course. So before your next encounter, visualize it. Hold expectations centered on the qualities of inner peace and success. You will find yourself pointing out what you love about that person instead of what they are doing wrong, and you will also see the other person respond with love and harmony rather than bitterness. Your ability to get ahead of yourself and see the outcome before it occurs will lead you to act in ways that bring about those results. This strategy for living works for practically everything. Before speaking to an audience, I always see them as loving, understanding, and having a wonderful experience. Before writing, I see myself free of writer's block, inspired, and with spiritual guidance available at all times. As A Course in Miracles reminds me, if you knew who walks beside you at all times, you would never feel fear again. This is the essence of inspiration, as well as seeing the future in terms of how you want it to be, and then acting exactly that way. Within you is the power not only to trust yourself in this divine wisdom, but also to know that you are connected to it by being part of the environment, just as the environment is part of you. Moreover, you must know there is an energy, a force, that will be used to bring you what you seek. Some of the things you can do to access this force and begin bringing things into your life through this energy are these. When you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, how did the conditions of my life that I would like to change arise? How can I make conscious contact with my unlimited, invisible source easier? In other words, stop seeing yourself as someone separate from everything that has happened in your life and recognize that there is something you have been doing to manifest everything already in your life. It did not just happen in some mysterious way. Everything that has appeared in your life has done so because of your inner world and how you connect with it. So simply look around and ask yourself, how did this spouse appear? And these children, and this furniture I have, and this job I am in? All these things? What role did I play in this? Was it just a fortuitous accident of nature? Or am I collaborating in some way I do not fully understand with the forces of nature that bring things into my life? Then begin to assume some responsibility for it. Second, explore the possibility that perhaps the reason you believe life is limited is that you have assumed there are limitations in your life. If you do not assume there are limitations, then those limitations begin to fade. All the limitations you experience and see in your world are really those of the physical world, limits on the physical plane. On the right-hand side of the room, as I describe it, everything you see does indeed have beginnings and endings, just as our senses perceive. But in fact, that is not what we are. Who we truly are, that divine being that is in all things, is unlimited. And when we can let go of our attachment to that capacity to enter that world, we also let go of the world of limitations. Any image you are able to create in your mind will help you know that creative energy is flowing through you. So work on those images you hold and make sure the inner images of what you would like to have, these visualizations, are working with you rather than against you. When you can picture yourself inwardly cooperating with divine intelligence, that intelligence will cooperate with you. If you cannot visualize this for yourself, if you cannot get that inner picture, then you will manifest what you are imagining, which is doubt. Another thing I would remind you of is, never limit spirit in any way. Speak to your spirit. Speak to this divine intelligence that is you, that even gives you the power to speak in the first place and to think. And tell spirit what you want without telling it how you want it to happen. Then step back with faith and trust. Also, hold your mental visualizations to yourself. Keep them secret, keep them private. What you want to attract is something between you and God. The instant you need to demonstrate it or share it, you take energy away from its fulfillment and place it into the reactions of others. Another thing to do here is examine all the supposed lacks and scarcities in your life. Then remind yourself, I created all of this with my thoughts, my conditioning, my beliefs, and past actions. Assuming responsibility for everything that has appeared in your life is the way to transcend the things you no longer want to appear. Also remember that what you think about is what you become. The great secret of the universe, the strangest secret, as my friend Earl Nightingale used to say, is that what you think about all day long is what you become. Be aware of every thought, every image that ends up in your head, because that is what will manifest in your life. And if you are doubting that, then you will manifest doubt. And finally, I would recommend that you begin acting as if what you truly want to attract into your life were already here, because it could not be anywhere else. Everything in the universe is already here. You do not create anything. You simply redistribute and attract that which is already here into your life. And so, if you act as if what you desire were already here, if you think you would like to have health, then you begin to think, I am healthy. If you think you would like to have a divine soulmate in your life, act as if that person were already there and begin having conversations with that person and expect them to appear. If you have a vision of attracting prosperity for yourself, then begin to act with prosperity. Go to places frequented by people who live prosperously. Walk through car dealerships that reflect this kind of consciousness. Always act as if what you desire were already here. It simply is not yet aligned with your intention, and that is what manifests, the alignment of your intention with the divine purpose. Now that we have arrived here, I am going to share one of the best reflections from one of my great friends. You surely know him, as he has a tremendous impact and has changed countless lives. Everything I offer is the truth, nothing more. Remember that the body is characterized by inertia. Quimby explained this more than 100 years ago, saying that your body moves when it is moved. It acts when it is acted upon. In other words, you can play a love melody on your body or a hymn of hate, but your body does not care. Your body is a confluence of atoms. It is molecular, thus characterized by inertia. Remember that it cannot originate a movement. There is no initiative, no conscious intelligence, no will of its own, no more than a stone. You have to move a stone from one place to another, right? Your body is composed of a primordial substance. It is shaped by your thoughts. As you change your way of thinking to conform to spiritual standards, you will have new cells and new tissues as you fill your mind with God's eternal truths. Suppose you sever your arm or leg from the body and place it on a shelf or a table. It cannot develop cancer, tuberculosis, ringworm, or any other disease under the sun. Why? Because it is separated from the mind. It will undergo disintegration, which is a natural phenomenon. But that is not disease. For example, suppose your thoughts are filled with fear and anxiety. When you worry, you might develop gastritis, which is an inflammation of the lining of the stomach, or you might develop ulcers. Today, psychosomatic physicians tell us that negative emotions are behind ulcers and all diseases. Suppose your ulcers are removed surgically, but you continue worrying, becoming angry, and filling yourself with hostility. Even if you keep to a soft diet, you would develop ulcers again. Then surgery is not really the solution. Thousands of people have been healed of ulcers by filling their minds with God's truths, establishing peace and harmony, thinking on all that is true, just beautiful, pure, and honest, thinking from the standpoint of harmony, health, peace, love, and goodwill, filling their minds with these eternal truths. Then, of course, they have a new body, because in any case, you have a new body every 11 months, new cells, tissues, and bones. There is no such thing as an incurable disease. There are incurable people who believe they cannot be healed. Many people have been healed of malignancies. They have broken that shell, while others have not, due to the intensity of fear buried in their subconscious minds. The consciousness of love, of course, is the greatest healing power there is. There are many people without academic training who have no knowledge of anatomy or physiology, yet they possess a great consciousness of love and are wonderful healers. Some people, doctors and surgeons, are astonished by the miraculous healings performed by these uneducated people. It is a consciousness of love. They know how to contemplate the wonders of everything, that there is an infinite intelligence that guides the planets in their courses, that makes the sun shine. And they also realize that this same infinite intelligence enables astronomers to tell us when Halley's Comet will return with precision to the second, governing the entire cosmos with immutable laws and principles. They recognize the indescribable beauty of God. They perceive the absolute harmony in nature and realize the divine love implanted in all of us. Be it the mother who travels the world trying to heal her child, suffering from infantile paralysis, or the brother who serves a sentence for his sister by saying he was the one who committed the crime, or the soldier in battle who says, "Well, I am not married, I have no children," and gives his life for his comrades who are married and have children. All that love, marvelous as it is is but a small shadow of that infinite ocean of God's love. Therefore, the person with that consciousness of love, who realizes that God's will for all people is life, love, truth, and beauty, by developing a consciousness of love within, becomes the greatest of healers. Dr. Flanders Dunbar, who wrote a book called Emotions and Bodily Diseases, earned degrees in theology, is a distinguished psychiatrist as well as a physician, and presented an interesting case. She spoke of a newly graduated doctor who reported that a shoemaker was going blind. The shoemaker attributed his blindness, of course, to his work. He was told to give it up, yet his eyes did not improve. He suffered small hemorrhages. In other words, hemorrhages in the tiny blood vessels of his eyes. What did the physician do? He said it was psychogenic. Psychogenic simply means of emotional origin. He worked with the man and discovered there were things he did not want to see in life, things he resented, and he got him to abandon his negative emotional state. His eyes returned to normal. Psychosomatic physicians, who study the soul and human emotions, report, for example, that glaucoma and detached retinas are associated with mental and emotional disturbances. I read some years ago that there were 500 cases of glaucoma admitted to the Eye, Ear, and Throat Hospital in Chicago. Researchers discovered that around 25% of those suffering from glaucoma harbored hatred toward a family member, which of course affected their eyes, something they did not want to see, something they wanted to exclude from their world. You see, your subconscious mind takes that as your command and then produces an occlusion in your vision. Dr. Dunbar recounts the case of a woman who was admitted to a mental asylum, and her sister began to lose her sight. Why? Because she felt guilty for not having been kind to her sister and wanted to punish herself. She said, "I did not treat her well, I am guilty," and so on. When physicians worked with her and told her it was not her fault that her sister had been admitted to the psychotic ward, that this was the cause of her retinal condition, she regained her inner peace through psychological and psychotherapeutic treatment, and her eyes were completely healed. She realized what she had been doing to herself and, of course, had to forgive herself as well as her sister, which meant blessing her and ceasing to condemn herself. A surgeon came to me with ulcers on his right hand. He said he could not operate, that he had tried everything under the sun. He had gone to specialists, tried ointments and lotions, X-ray therapy, and all kinds of treatments, but the ulcers persisted. I said, "Doctor, why do you think it is the right hand? You know the right represents the objective world in the Bible, and the left the subjective world. Did you do something for which you feel guilty?" He blushed and said, "Yes, but it was years ago when I was an intern." I asked, "Would you do it now?" "No, I would not," he replied. I said, "You are condemning an innocent man. You are not the same man. Mentally, you have a new vision of life. Emotionally, you are not the same man. Physiologically, you are not the same man, because every 11 months we have a new body, including the bones. And spiritually, you are certainly not the same man." "So," I said, "you are condemning an innocent man." I explained that the presence of God does not condemn anyone. If you cut yourself, you heal. If you burn yourself, your body reduces the inflammation and gives you new skin and tissues. The tendency of life is to heal. God's will for all is life, love, truth, and beauty, something beyond our deepest dreams. The tendency of life is to heal, to restore, even the psychotic or the maniac. The tendency of life is to restore that person to harmony, health, and peace. That is the direction of life. That is the rhythm of life. That is the way of life. And God is the principle of life that animates all people. And the presence of God cannot be sick or frustrated. Its tendency is to heal, to express through you as rhythm, order, beauty, and proportion. I told him, "You are condemning yourself, and as long as you do so, you cannot be healed. You cannot cling to your blindness and expect to be healed. You cannot cling to self-criticism and self-condemnation. The oxygen is there, the water is waiting to flow, but it cannot." My explanation was the cure, and in a week his ulcers healed and he could operate again. And he could also play the musical instrument he loved so much. For 2 years, his hand had not healed because of self-condemnation, self-criticism, and guilt. With that guilt comes the idea that one must be punished, With that, of course, comes fear. And all of this is a false belief. No person punishes another. No being in heaven is punishing anyone. God cannot punish anyone. The Absolute does not punish. All judgment has been given to the Son. The Son is your mind, and according to your thoughts and feelings, it is done unto you. Dr. Flanders Dunbar says that the skin, more than any other part of the body, shows the relationship between a person's thoughts and emotions and their health. She reveals the great truth that the skin is the place where the inner world communicates with the outer world, and that skin conditions are often due to hostility, repressed emotions, anger, rage, self-criticism, and emotional protest against something in the inner life. These are very interesting things to understand. But the Bible knew this thousands of years ago, or at least the people who wrote the Bible said, "As a person thinks in their heart, so are they." The heart is your subconscious mind. It is the seat of your emotions and feelings. The thoughts and beliefs deeply rooted in your mind have a life of their own, and these subconscious assumptions and beliefs dictate and control all your conscious actions. Therefore, one person believes their condition is incurable, says that their mother had cancer, that their father died of cancer, and so on. They believe it is incurable. Others will say that is absurd, that cancer is the product of destructive thoughts, conscious and unconscious. If I change my way of thinking, I will change my body. I told you about the Episcopal priest. Years ago, he appeared in a New York newspaper. He had cancer, and his surgeon told him it was metastasizing. He gathered members of his congregation to pray. He himself began to pray. He went back to the surgeon after a while, and although he suffered excruciating pain and underwent X-ray therapy, the surgeon told him, "The cancer is disappearing. You are going to be healed," and he was completely healed. The newspaper article said that 5 years had passed and that man was perfectly healthy. He believed there was an all-powerful force that had created his body and could heal it, and he was restored. Many people manage to break that shell because by changing their mind, they change their body. Your body cannot be sick without the involvement of the mind. There is no disease independent of the mind, as I explained at the beginning of this talk. Spiritual healing is something very real. It is the miraculous healing power within you that created you. Therefore, when you turn to that power and realize that it is now being released as wholeness, beauty, and perfection, and when you fill your mind with these truths of God, and when you forgive everyone, including yourself, then you will have a wonderful healing. If we are blind and we cling to our blindness, then of course we cannot be healed. Blindness is the ignorance of humankind. It's superstition and fear, the belief that God's will for them is suffering. That is the true blindness. Realize that it is normal and natural for you to be healthy, happy, joyful, and free. Realize that your body is an instrument in which God dwells, and that you are the tabernacle of the living God. You cannot rid yourself of your illnesses while clinging to ill will, resentment, self-criticism, and condemnation of yourself. The alcoholic cannot be healed if he continues clinging to self-criticism and self-condemnation. He must renounce all of that. He must have goodwill in his heart for all, because love is the fulfillment of the law. The alcoholic must pour forth love, peace, and goodwill, and desire for every living being in the world what he desires for himself. You always know when you have forgiven because you can meet the person in your mind and there is no grudge, only a wave of peace and goodwill. The healing presence is within you, and wonders can happen in your life when you begin to turn toward it. Great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. Those who have found that inner peace will see wonders in their lives. Great peace have they who love your law, and nothing will make them stumble. With my mind stayed on you, there is no evil in my way. The divine presence is ever ready within you, and now with me, realize that the miraculous healing power is focused at that point in your mind where the problem is, and it dissolves, making way for God's healing power to flow through you. You do not create sight, for example. Rather, you manifest it or release it. We see through the eye, not with it. The cornea of the eye is stimulated by waves of light coming from objects in space. Through the optic nerve, these stimuli are carried to the brain. When the inner intelligence meets the outer light in this way, by a process of interpretation, we see. Your eyes symbolize divine love and delight in the ways of God, as well as a hunger and thirst for God's truth. Your right eye symbolizes right thinking and action. The left eye symbolizes God's love and wisdom. Think rightly and radiate goodwill toward all, and you will focus perfectly. Receive your sight, it was said, and immediately he received his sight and followed, glorifying God. Millions of people are blind, as I said. That is, they are psychologically and spiritually blind, because they do not know they become what they think about all day long. A person is spiritually and mentally blind when they are hateful, resentful, or envious of others. They do not realize they are actually secreting mental poisons that tend to destroy them. That is their disease. That is their ailment. Disease is a lack of peace, a lack of balance. All disease is due to ill will. Thousands of people are constantly saying there is no way to solve their problem, that their situation is hopeless. They are saying, God cannot heal me, while at the same time affirming, with God, all things are possible. They say that all blessings come from God, but as you see, they are atheists. They deny what they affirm. That attitude is the result of spiritual blindness. A person begins to see spiritually and mentally when they gain a new understanding of their mental powers and develop an awareness that the wisdom and intelligence in their subconscious can solve all their problems. Everyone should be aware of the interrelationship and interaction of the conscious and the subconscious mind. Those who were once blind to these truths, after careful introspection, will begin to see the vision of health, wealth, happiness, and peace of mind. These can be theirs through the right application of the laws of the mind and the way of the spirit. Yes, the healing power of God is within you, and wonders can happen in your life when you begin to say, God within me is healing me now. No doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist, or mental science practitioner heals the patient. Psychologists or psychiatrists proceed to remove mental blocks, just as the surgeon removes a physical blockage, allowing God's healing currents to flow through you. There are many different methods to remove the mental, emotional, and physical blocks that inhibit the flow of the healing life principle that animates us all. The healing principle residing in your subconscious mind can, and will, if correctly directed, heal mind and body of every disease. There is only one healing process. There is only one universal healing principle operating through all. Because all is alive, God is life. This life principle operates through the animal, vegetable, and mineral kingdoms as instinct and law of growth. There are many approaches, techniques, and different methods to use the universal power, but there is only one healing process, which is faith. And according to your faith, it is done unto you. All the religions of the world represent forms of belief, and these beliefs are explained in many ways. The law of life is the law of belief. What do you believe about yourself, life, and the universe? According to your belief, so shall it be done. Belief is a thought in your mind that causes the power of your subconscious to be distributed into all phases of your life. Whether the object of your belief is true or false, you will obtain the same results. It is much better to know what you are doing and why you are doing it than to do it mechanically. Scientific prayer requires you to realize that the Bible is not speaking of your belief in some ritual, ceremony, form, institution, person, or formula. It speaks of belief itself, the belief of your mind. If you can believe, all things are possible to the one who believes. Spiritual treatment or therapy means you turn to the God within and remind yourself of the peace of God, the harmony, the wholeness, the beauty, the unlimited love, and the boundless power. Know that God loves you and cares for you. As you pray in this manner, fear will gradually fade away. If you are praying about a heart condition, do not think of the organ as diseased, for that would not be thinking spiritually. Thoughts are things. Your spiritual thought takes the form of cells, fluids, nerves, and organs. Thinking of a damaged heart or high blood pressure tends to suggest more of what you already have. Stop focusing on symptoms, organs, or any part of the body. Direct your mind to God and His love, feel it, and know that there is only one healing presence in power, and that there is no power to challenge God's action. Affirm calmly and lovingly that the healing, strengthening, uplifting power of the infinite presence is flowing through you, making you completely whole. Know and feel that God's harmony, beauty, and love are manifest in you as strength, peace, vitality, wholeness, and right action. Gain a clear realization of this, and the damaged heart, or any other diseased organ, will be healed in the light of God's love. God within you is healing you now. Glorify God in your body, now and forever.